What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here. Today's video, we're going to take the Build-A-Beast and we're going to scale it down. This is the mini beast. I'm not going to lie, I'm tying this entire video more or less off the cuff. And that's because I talked about in this Build-A-Beast video, the most recent one I posted, how this was 100% scalable. You have a custom scalable tail, you have a custom scalable shank. The two can be married to really tie any extended body fly. Bucktail deceivers, bulkheads, hollow flies, which are beasts, extended body hollow flies are beasts, really in any size range that you can. And I talked about how the only adaptation you truly need to get comfortable with is the shorter your hair is, kind of the closer the spacing is. The closer you have to make your frequency of tying points because there's less overlap of the bucktail. So we're going to take me at my word, and I'm going to do exactly that and kind of walk you through how I would do it, because I'm not going to lie, both of these, even this one, which is a hair smaller, this is about 9 inches, this one came out huge, like a 12-inch beast from tip to tail, 12 inches. They're both tied with premium hair, and I know for a fact that I invest a lot of money in quality bucktail. I work with people in the industry that help me get quality bucktail, and I know that I have a slight advantage over you guys as far as getting access to quality tail. I know that. And so we're going to do it on the spot. This is hairline bucktail that I sell. I grade it myself. I am usually always out of stock, forgive me, but I go through and I measure all the length, and this is 3.5 plus. It's literally the shortest hair that I usually get. I also have like 4 and under, and then 4 and up, and then like 5 and up. Those ones are super rare, like 1 in 25, 1 in 30 tails will be 5. 4 and up is usually maybe 1 in 10. 4 and under is about 7 out of 10. And then the 3s are pretty short. But this is all I have left from my last order. And what we're going to do is I'm going to fondle this. And to prove my point to you, so 3 plus should mean the shortest hairs are about 3. You can see most are pushing 3.5, right close to 4. That's not even close to being in frame. Sorry. That's what you get. But that's how I just do it right there. You can see right here on the rawhide, matching the same angle of the hair. It's about 3.5, 3 1/4, maybe out to 4 inches. And the whole point of this is what you have. This is everywhere in the industry. This is at every single fly shop. This is probably the most highest quantity. What am I trying to get at? It's everywhere, right? This is everywhere. This is bucktail when you just find it at your local shop. Now there's still some characteristics you want to look for. You still want to touch it. You still want to make sure it has some air to it. It should be fairly springy. The base is going to be like body hair. The tip should be a little bit dead, but the sweet spot still needs to be sweet. I like it when it has a little crinkle. You can see how this is crinkly. These are not super fine, super straight, super soft. I want a little bit of wave. It kind of helps it fill in. You can tie a little bit sparser that way. And I'm definitely going to check this orange. See, this orange is a little bit straighter. It's also a little bit springier. That's okay. This is what I'm going to use for the head, so that's fine by me. This one's definitely a little shorter. Probably 3.5 is going to be the longest on this tail. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm fondling these. And I'm getting acquainted with this material, because when I sketch beasts and I sketch hollow flies, and what we're about to do is I'm going to sketch what we're going to do. But I always sketch them for 4.5, 5 inch hair, because I have a lot of it and I'm used to working with it. And so I'm going to acquaint myself here with this hair and just kind of touch it, because what we're going to do is we're going to design the fly on paper first. This is something I do with nearly all my flies. This to me is the first step in the design process, because I'm familiar with it. If you're not familiar with something, this doesn't do you any good. But once you're very familiar with something, if you can draw it to scale, if you understand the angles you can create, how long the tail is going to be, how long the tubes are going to be, how much bulk you can generate, how long your shank is, if you can draw everything to scale, then you should be able to, I don't know where I put my beast, you should be able to reproduce it, right? You should be able to take a picture and you should be able to reproduce it on the vise nearly identically. right? And so these, I've made some epic bee stickers. They're not 100% to scale. If you guys would be interested in that, let me know, but I scaled them down to about 75% so that they didn't cost an arm and a leg. But bee stickers, yeah, they're pretty sweet. But that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to draw a mini beast and all of the steps that are gonna require to tie it at that scale with this hair. Let's do this. So I'm not gonna lie, this feels way out of my comfort zone, but this is the plan. We're gonna do 4 tube sections, HMH, small rigid tubes. Just like on the bigger beast, we're gonna line it with 30-pound Perlon hard monofilament leader material with an overhand knot that's glued at the end. I am going to cut them initially to 1/2 inch because that's easiest to tie on, and then I'll cut them all short to about 3/8 of an inch long. Maybe a hair shorter if I can, maybe cut them shorter in the back and the front to put the tubes closer together. But that's gonna be about the best spacing you're gonna be able to get unless you actually tie on the mono in hand. But using the tubes, that's about the best you're gonna get. Now, because this is a small fly, like maybe 7 inches, 6 inches. We're going for 6.5 inch beast here. But a 6-inch fly is pretty small. I would fish that essentially single hooked, right? I don't really need to put the hook farther back into that fly, so we have a really small dropper shank. I'm still gonna do the dropper shank because I like them. I think they're super cool. So it's a 45 millimeter shank. I'm still gonna use the 0.5 1-inch 51 thousandths stainless steel wire that we're gonna bend into the dropper shank. This is something cool that I wanted to share with you guys. In the big beast, because this fly is smaller, it will have significantly less air resistance on it, and it probably won't need to be weight balanced. It probably will be if I keep the hair nice and open and flared and tie with the right density. It shouldn't need basically anything. That shank with the treble on there or a large single will soar that thing. So this is something that's really cool, but you can use plastic beads as well. Because you're building a custom shank, you can thread it with anything. I present using 3/16 hollow steel beads because these are weighted 0.2 grams a piece. Now, like 3 of these is the equivalent of like medium lead eyes, right? We're talking about putting the amount of weight that you might put in a sex dungeon with the lead eyes. That's what we're putting in a beast to help it fly for maximum distance, being weight balanced per Mark Sidotti's theory. So you can use plastic beads as well to do the exact same thing, but keep it more or less weightless and still save your time with the tying and not having to do hollow fly. So I'm going to use these ones. They're 5 millimeter. Based on my sketch, I'm only going to be able to fit about 2 on there. Now this is important because if you build the shank and you put too many beads on there, there's no going back, right? You'll have to cut the tail, rethread the tail, rebend a new shank, and try again. So you got to get the right beads. So we're going to start with 2. And I can always make 2 work, and then if I know in the future if this isn't quite right, maybe it could do 3, right? So play it safe, and then I think just 2 bulkhead ties to finish. I was gonna do a strung fuzzy fiber bulkhead with eyes, but when I started sketching it, it didn't seem like it was gonna work. And so I'm designing the fly here first before I go through and waste a bunch of bucktail and a bunch of tubes and a bunch of time. Because I can kind of get a feel for what is actually going to fly when I start tying. So let's build a mini beast. So far we have followed the mini beast almost perfectly, like on a scary level. It's about maybe an inch longer. It's about 7 inches, which is kind of what I expected. And then I measured this, and this was short, like 6 inches. So yeah, it's kind of interesting working at this scale. But just like I had kind of hoped, I had kind of settled on doing like 2 bulkheads or 2 reverse bulkheads at the front, and I didn't want to. I wanted to do a strung fuzzy fiber head. And I think I made the shank probably more like 55 instead of 45. That would be my guess, because I do have enough room. If the shank was, you know, beep, beep, a little bit shorter, I wouldn't, but I totally do. So I'm gonna do a crazy cool custom strung fuzzy fiber bulkhead blend that will stick some eyes on, and it'll make this thing super fun and cool looking. So let's do that. Let's see what we got here. I got some brown strung fuzz, yellow strung fuzz to lighten it up a little. And then we're going to do electric ripple ice in fluorescent sunburst, and then some ripple ice in floral blue. It's going to be cool. Let's kind of see what we got going on here. Then we're just going to rip stack that and get a little blendy wendy for some crazy cool synthetic bulkhead action. So we're going to take that strung fuzz. I originally cut it to 1/4 of that full length. I treat it the same way, kind of no matter what pattern I'm doing. And we're going to stack a collar on there so that it bleeds in with the bucktail. And kind of just get a loose wrap on there and kind of pack it, and then cinch it down so it's as close to the bucktail as you can get. Then just get your thread in front of this, and then we're going to finish it with a dubbing loop. You could stack and pack the whole head, but the dubbing loop is fun and clean. Now, you can do something really cool with strung fuzz. You can hold it back, and you can hit the bases with CA+, because strung fuzz is just nylon. That's all it is. So it'll kick very much the way our monofilament thread kicks and turns into like a ball of plastic. You can do the exact same with strung fuzz. You pull it back, you hit the base that's setting the angle with the CA+ super glue, and it'll create a little plastic ball of strung fuzz that'll be basically hollow tied, if you will, at this really perfect angle, bleeding into a ridiculously cool mini beast. That's not a lot of room for. It's not a lot of room for a dubbing loop. I could do the loop up through the barrel wraps, or I could just do the loop super duper dense. Let's just do it super dense. There's not that much. So I'm going to pinch this at the midpoint. I'm going to come and I'm going to cut up one side so that the two sides are not the same length. You're going to get a long side and a short side. And we're going to put the long side in first, closest to the head in our loop to get some length back there. Take a little clip and hold all that back. You don't need a super big loop, like 4 inches is fine. Come in with a dubbing loop tool. Hit this with some thread. I love doing dubbing loops because it's just like the most chaotic way that you could finish a fly. It's like so stressful. You don't have any room. What if everything breaks? You're trying to do like 50 things at one time, which is quite ridiculous to even consider doing. You're using like 3 materials at once. To me, it's just like comical. And then when you finish it and you tie it off and everything is perfectly on there, like just packed super tight, and you're like, wow, look at that bulkhead. That was stressful. It's funny. Anyway, I'm going to get that on there, move it around so it looks nice. It shouldn't all be the same length, and I'm going to pack it on pretty tight, tighter than I normally would, because I don't have a lot of room to work with. I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm not really doing a lot of teaching in this one, because I'm not going to lie, this is highly experimental, and I kind of thought I was going to mess this up. So I'm going to make a cool 1-minute edit out of this, I think. And if you guys want to know more about these techniques, I have breakaway videos for the hollow tying. I got breakaway videos on tube extensions. I got breakaway videos. I'm going to do one for the dropper shank, so we're all on the same page with that. I got a breakaway video that's literally for this entire beast build, right? The long beast. If you watch that one's like 50 minutes, but it has all of this in it. All of it. So this one is just kind of for fun, showing you guys that, hey, the scale is customizable, and I meant that, and I'm going to put it to the test. Because I know not everybody's got 5-inch bucktail, and that's okay. You don't need 5-inch bucktail. Now, of course, this fly could be bigger, right? Even with this 4-inch hair, I could extend this from, the 7, kind of ish, 7.5 that we have, out to 8, out to 9, out to 10. You are going to be semi-restricted with how much volume you're going to be able to build, right? Because if I take 5-inch hair and flare it at 90 degrees, and you take 4-inch hair and flare it at 90 degrees, they're not the same length. The 5 will breathe better because the water will have more leverage on it. So there will be small nuance and differences between the two. I'm not saying, you're going to get the exact same results, but you can definitely get similar lengths. That came out sweet. I love the barrel wraps on the hook eye because they're so forgiving to just kind of screw around with stuff like this and not crowd the hook eye. It's so cool. You can really see that fluorescent, what was that, electric ripple ice in there. It's just cool with the blue highlights. Again, I'm going to kind of set that to a hollow angle when I glue that thread on there. And I'm going to try not to touch it, or else I'll glue my fingers to the strung fuzz, which happens all the time. It's quite funny. And then I'm going to come and just round that out, which is not bad as it is. We're going to do size mediums. So you're going to take your posted dome eye. Yikes. You're going to cut the post off of it pretty short, as short as you can. The shorter you cut it, the easier they are to work with. The longer you leave them, they're going to interfere and poke into each other and make a mess. So cut them short, pretty short. You still have significantly more surface area on an eye like that. As far as your glue adhesion, and there's also no adhesive on the back of it, so there's no interference with your glue. Going to come in with Zap Goo. It's my favorite to use for this. Don't use the dispensing nozzle because these things get clogged and then the glue solidifies and hardens and you can't ever get in there. Unscrew the whole cap and get into the good stuff. It'll be significantly easier to work with. Take a big old dollop of this stuff. And I love doing these posted dome eyes with this kind of goop style adhesive because you can really put them in kind of an anatomically correct place. And I'm going to kind of work it down through the head, down into the fiber. And what you're doing is you're setting the glue up as an anchor. You want the glue to anchor it into the head, not necessarily the post of the eye. So really work that glue down into that head. Imagine like the roots of a tree system, right? You're creating glue roots that go way down there. And then you're going to put, you know, just a fresh little, it's too much, just a fresh little dollop. Right back at the surface before you put them all on. So that's all you need, especially for the size medium, which aren't huge. If you take the goop cap like that, the Zap Goo, and treat it the whole cap like that, you'll be able to use most of the tube before it goes bad. Drop that guy on there, shove it into the hair. And this stuff, I did a goop, or not a goop, a posted domite test on my Patreon page, where I basically glued it into a bunch of different fibers, tried a bunch of different glues, tried a bunch of different tubing things, and then just reefed on them and tried to rip them out. This stuff is crazy durable, like blow your mind durable. But strung fuzz with that Zap Goo and posted domite cut short is so ridiculously cool. So I added 45 to 55 millimeter in the strung fuzz bulkhead option, but that is the bug. That is the bug. Pretty cool. That is a mini beast. I haven't got it wet or hung dried or anything because that glue is still drying, so it'll probably be a day before I hang dry it and do any pictures or show you anything cool. But thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you'll try the Build-A-Beast. I think it's just so wicked easy, especially for extended body tying, especially using mono to do it, which creates a stiff joint in the back so things don't fall. You're getting the movement and swim out of the hair and the flare angle. You can use it to build bucktail deceivers, bulkheads, really any length hollow fly. And now, as I have said before, it's 100% scalable from anything, you know, 7 inches all the way up to absolute monstrosities, just depending on your hair and taking that hair to the extreme that it can go. I am going to, let's see, we've got to find a hook here. You want to do the single? I know you guys hate the treble stuff, so I'll do a single. I'm going to take a pretty small split ring, like a 20-pound split ring. Let's see what hooks these are. They might be the 2-aught, but it's the VMC inline single. Show you the packaging here. VMC inline single. That's the 2-aught. Looks like it'll fit this pretty well here. Nice stout little wire hook, and the hook eye is inline. You see that? And that'll drop perfectly right under there. Where's my split ring pliers? Man, my table is an absolute mess. This is ridiculous. You can of course go bigger on the split rings, but I use the split ring as my failsafe because I don't use any breakaway sections to my leaders or anything. My leaders are pretty heavy, like 40-pound heavy, which is heavier than my fly line, so I tend to use skinny little split rings like 15s or 20s or 25s, depending on what kind of hook you're doing or anything like that. And that is my failure point on these flies. And now you have a hook that is free hanging. Huge gap to it, right? There's no way they can miss that. Look at it, perfectly placed. And if anything happens to it, it's replaceable, 100% replaceable. If you miss fish or anything like that, and you're like, man, for crying out loud, I want to put a treble on there. Put a treble on there, like a size 2, even a size 4 would fit this kind of perfectly. And then you have, you know, a free swinging treble hanging below a fly, almost like a Mr. Wiggly style rigging on such a cool little, unbelievably castable, unbelievably fast tie mini beast. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you'll check it out. Hope you'll tie one up. I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.